I'm going to start with a blessing for Torah study, get us from what we were just doing to what we're going to do, or get me from what I was just doing to what we're going to do. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok divrei Torah. So I'm going to start with some background that we all know, but it's really great to have it in print in front of us. We all know the Apocrypha is where the story of Hanukkah comes from, and we all know that it's from the book of Maccabees, but actually having it in front of us is really, really helpful. So what I'm interested in is the historical level of Hanukkah and how it turns into the story of light, but I'm really interested in how we play that light aspect of the story away from the little jar of oil and into a more spiritual realm of the meaning of light. But to begin with, we just got to understand that the book of Maccabees is in the Apocrypha. Everybody knows that. And here is the story of Hanukkah from the Apocrypha. It's the story as we know it. The enemy had been defeated. Let us clean the temple and dedicate it on the 25th day of the 9th month, which is called Kislev. Immediately reminding you that the Maccabees had to remind people that of the Jewish months. Because of Hellenistic assimilation, there's no reason to have to say, which is called Kislev, unless people forgot that the name of the 9th month is Kislev. So for a close reading of the text, it's helpful to look at all of these little hints that we're getting of the amount of Hellenistic assimilation. They offered sacrifices upon the new altar which they had built. It's really important to remember that the beginning of Hanukkah has two themes. One is the dedication of the temple. That is the first theme of Hanukkah. And the second theme of Hanukkah is sacrifices. No light, no nothing, okay? The cleaning and rededication of the temple and sacrifices. And the sacrifices are important to remember because we couldn't do the sacrifices for Sukkot. We end up doing the sacrifices on Hanukkah. So in essence, Hanukkah becomes a second Sukkot long before it is a holiday of lights, okay? Then all the people fell on their faces, worshiping and praising God. So they celebrated the dedication of the altar. Sorry, that's the wrong spelling of altar. For 8 days, happily offering sacrifices. So I really want to underscore that again, that for the Maccabees, the 8 days of Hanukkah was to restore the sacrifices of the 8 days of Sukkot that they had missed. Judah and his brothers ordered that the dedication of the altar, wow, I really spelled altar badly every time, be remembered each year by celebrating it, for 8 days. Judah and his brothers ordered that the dedication of the altar be remembered each year by celebrating it. How? How? Okay, there's no how. It's just Judah and his brothers, the Maccabees, order that there be an 8 day something or other every year to remember the dedication of the altar. One could suggest that the level or the idea of that celebration would simply be an 8 day sacrificial ceremony, right? Because there's nothing else that Maccabees tell us to do. Here's the Sukkot. Now, so that's from the first book of Maccabees. From the second book of Maccabees, here's the Sukkot connection. Judah Maccabee and his followers retook the temple and the city of Jerusalem. Remember, the city of Jerusalem is not mentioned in the first book of Maccabees. They threw out the altars that the heathens had built. They cleaned the temple and built a new altar. Now, for the first time in 2 years, a sacrifice was offered in the temple. Incense was brought forth, lights were kindled, and the 2 loaves of bread were placed on the table. So again, don't get excited about the mention of lights here because again, the focus of the holiday is the sacrifice and the rededication of the temple. And from the 25th day of Kislev, for 8 days, rejoicing followed, just as they had done a short time earlier during the observance of the Sukkot holiday. So there's reason to suggest that during the battle, Sukkot could not be celebrated. We retake the temple, we establish 8 days of sacrifices, and it's kind of like a second Sukkot. Here we see the first mention of lights were kindled, right? but nothing about the little jar of oil, We all know that comes later in the Talmud. The mention of the oil lasting for 8 days is actually from Josephus. Again, we all know that, but I wanted to give you the actual text so you have it in front of you. Here it is from Antiquities of the Jews. Here's his whole story. He goes into it, right? And in the bottom he says, "Nay, they were so very glad at the revival of their customs, when after a long time of intermission, they unexpectedly had regained the freedom of their worship, that they made it a law for their posterity, that they should keep a festival on account of the restoration of their temple worship for 8 days." Okay, now he tells here the story of the lamps offered incense, okay, dedicated. Judas celebrated the festival of the restoration of the sacrifice of the temple for 8 days and omitted no sort of pleasure, feasted, okay? And here's mention of the oil. They lit the lamps that were on the candlesticks, offered incense upon the altar, laid the loaves, okay? But again, sort of no mention yet of that little jar of oil. And from that time to this, we celebrate this festival and call it lights. Watch this. I suppose the reason was because this liberty beyond our hopes appeared to us, and that thence was a name given to the festival. Okay. We move to the Talmud. This is, for me, one of the most important and interesting pieces of Talmud about Hanukkah. And the reason it's so interesting is because of these first words. Oh, sorry, it doesn't, my Hebrew won't take bolding, so I can be very technologically cool here and do it in red. These first two words are so important because you don't see them in any other context in Talmud, except in a context of, we don't know what the heck this is about. My Hanukkah. What the heck is Hanukkah? And for the rabbis to ask that, and of course for the answer to not be from any one particular rabbi, right? But from the answer to be Tanu Rabbanan, which is some Tanaim say, okay, some rabbis say. Why would the rabbis of the Talmud be asking my Hanukkah if they understood what the heck it was? Now, judging from Josephus and judging from the book of Maccabees, we have a festival of 8 days that we're not really sure. Is it a sacrificial festival? Is it a rededication of the temple festival? Or is it a festival of lights? It is the rabbis who established this little jar of oil story to tell us the answer to this question, what is Hanukkah? Otherwise, well, you guys know the answer to this. Otherwise, by the time of the Talmud, we can't be reestablishing a sacrificial holiday, can we? We can't say it's an 8-day sacrificial festival. It's an 8-day rededication of the temple. We have no temple and we have no sacrifices. We have got to find another reason for this holiday. Now, a lot of scholars say, yeah, we had to find another reason because the rabbis were unhappy, it was too militaristic, you know, the Maccabees and the fight. And so they made up the little jar of oil story so that it would be less militaristic. That's why the Haftarah for the Shabbat in Hanukkah is what? What's our famous Haftarah for the Shabbat in Hanukkah?
Not by might, not by power.
By might, not by power. So the thought is that the rabbis demilitarize, and that Haftarah is seen as a proof. My thought is that the rabbis detempolize and desacrificize in this story of the little jar of oil. There's got to be a relevant, if you will, 2nd century meaning to the holiday, because in a post-temple, post-sacrificial world, why the heck would we celebrate it otherwise? Exactly what is Hanukkah? Our rabbis taught on the 25th of Kislev, the days of Hanukkah commence, which are 8, on which a lamentation for the dead and fasting are forbidden. inun dela lemisped bahon v'dela lehitanot. Okay, so now we know that this is a sort of chag because you're not allowed to do a hesped, a eulogy, and you're not allowed to fast, which is the same as a chag, except it's not a chag, okay? That's all we know so far. For when the Syrian Greeks captured the temple, they spoiled all the jugs of oil that the high priest had prepared for the lighting of the temple menorah. Note the story we tell today. The story we tell today is we couldn't find any oil. Okay, that's not the story. The story in the Talmud is they searched and searched, but all they found was spoiled jugs of oil. So there was oil in the temple. It just was missing the seal of the high priest. They searched and found one small jug that still had the seal of the high priest on it. There was only enough in it to keep the menorah burning for one day. But a miracle happened. The menorah kept on burning for 8 days. On the following year, watch carefully. On the following year, it was decided to observe these 8 days once again as festive days in which Hallel and thankfulness were to be sung. Okay, so let's look here. L'shana acheret kiva'um ve'asa'um yamim tovim b'halel v'hoda'ah. What's missing? What's missing?
The kindling of lights, right?
Still no kindling of lights. The story of the little jar of oil appears. Still no kindling. What is the point of the holiday now? It's no longer a point of doing 8 days of sacrifices. What's it a point of doing? 8 days of Hallel and Hoda'ah. From a political point of view, guys, why? Why? Why do the rabbis do that?
Well, it's not about them, it's about God. So it's not the people. It's a God thing, it's not a people thing.
Okay, number one, it's a godless holiday. We've just put God in it. Okay.
It's also, it's not by our might, it's by God's might. So you can't change your political situation. God can change your political situation.
Okay. Until now, anything about God. So we've put God in, like Purim, we have a God missing in the story. Let's put God in. Go ahead.
And it's also, as you said, not about the temple anymore. It's about rabbinic practice. Hoda'ah, I forget what Hallel v'hoda'ah.
Fabulous. I want to underscore what Mark has just said. Okay. To me, I read the Talmud politically always. The Talmud is about the, what's the word I'm looking for? It's about the establishment or the confirmation of rabbinic authority. It's the rabbis who say you have to light Shabbos candles 18 minutes before sunset. It's the rabbis who are going to establish the lighting of the Chanukkah. It is the rabbis who established the saying of Hallel during Hanukkah, which is not a Chag. Notice it says here, Shmona yamim l'shana acheret kiva'um va'asa'um yamim tovim. What does it not say? Chagim. Because a Chag has a halachic basis, whereas a Yom Tov doesn't have such a halachic basis, okay? But the rabbis are declaring Chanukkah as a Yom Tov. They are confirming their rabbinic authority to make a holiday out of something that was a temple sacrificial experience, a temple sacrificial ritual, if you will. They, in establishing the saying of Hallel for Hanukkah, they are establishing rabbinic authority to literally invent a holiday, as it were. Okay? We'll see this again in Purim, but that's not today's talk. All right, let's get to eight candles already. What's going on here? So the first time we get 8 candles is the Midrash. Oh my God, I love when people find out that this holiday is basically a Midrashic invention. Okay, so this is from Pesikta Rabadi, chapter 2. V'lama madlik nerot b'Chanukah. Now, remember my Hanukkah question? Why do we need to ask a question that we know the answer to? We obviously don't know the answer. Why? By the Midrash is already asking, if the Talmud tells us to say Hallel on these 8 days, why are we lighting candles? So like Purim, the theory is we're already lighting candles for Hanukkah. We've got to find a reason why. We're already doing it. It's already a common custom.
Can I ask a question? That means that they're already lighting the candles, right? So do we know how that, I mean, that must have been established at some point along the way, right?
Don't know when. We simply do not know when, okay? I don't know the year of Pasikta Rabadi. Somebody look it up on Google. It's Pasikta Rabadi, 3rd, 4th century, I think. But somebody look that up and tell us. That'll be helpful to know. Clearly, they're already lighting candles. Clearly, the Mishnah doesn't tell us to light candles.
I think there was a at least a Roman custom at the time, and I'm just trying to remember the name of the festival.
Hold on, we're getting there.
We're getting there. No, that's maybe where it came. Okay.
We're getting there. But somebody tell me when Pasikta Rabadi is from? Anybody looking for me? How should we do it?
I'll look for it.
No, I've got it right here. Hang on. Collection of 845 CE.
8, so it's late. Late. We're talking here 9th century of the Common Era. We're talking here from 4 centuries later. Wow. Okay. That doesn't mean we're not lighting candles all those 4 centuries. We're lighting candles. We just got to figure out why. Okay. Why are lights kindled on Hanukkah? The reason is that when the sons of Mattatyahu, the high priest, defeated the Syrian Greeks, they entered the temple and found 8 iron spears. Interesting. נכנסו לבית המקדש ומצאו שם 8 שיפודין של ברזל. What is shipudin in modern Hebrew?
Skewers.
Kebab.
Like kebab skewers, yeah. Which is fitting for the temple.
I feel like Mattatyahu went in and they were having like a kebab roast. They found 8 iron spears. They stuck them in the earth and kindled a light in each one. Oh, there's your first menorah, or the first understanding we have of the menorah. Here's one last thought, and this is what Gila was talking about. Okay, and then we'll stop and I want to leave time to get to the heart of it, which is some of the more mystical notions of this light. But this is really where I think it comes from. This is a very important piece from the Talmud, Avodah Zarah 8a. I've given you the Hebrew, but let's go right into the English just so we can be quick on it. Rav Hanan bar Rava says, when are these festivals celebrated? And this is now a listing of pagan festivals that our Jewish ancestors knew about, possibly celebrated, were involved with in some way. It's really like Christmas and Hanukkah here. Kalenda is celebrated during the 8 days after the winter solstice. And Saturnalia is celebrated during the 8 days before the winter solstice. So the winter solstice is when?
December 21st.
December 21st. So,
but what I understood, I just want to say something about the solstice. That's according to the Georgian calendar, but the Julian calendar, I think it's December 25. And that's where the kafeh maybe comes from, and Christmas.
Okay, yes. And we don't know here in the Hebrew kufa, right? What exactly lifnei kufa? We don't know we know what solstice today is, Gila, you're right. We don't know what they counted as kufa. Good. Anyway, there's a celebration of some sort 8 days before the winter peak and 8 days after the winter peak. Very interesting. So again, Gila's right. Think about New Year's. Think about Christmas. Okay? And your mnemonic to remember which festival is that, the one that occurs after the solstice is mentioned first in the Mishnah, and the festival that takes place before the solstice is mentioned after. I love this. why the rabbis feel like they need to give Jews a mnemonic to remember when Christmas and New Year's are. I'm just saying Calenda and Saturnalia are, is fantastic. It says a lot about how we're living among the pagans that we're living among. And of course, they have to give a proof text, which they do. With regard to the dates of these festivals, the sages taught, when Adam, the first man, saw that the day was progressively diminishing, as the days became shorter from the autumnal equinox until the winter solstice, he did not yet know that this is a normal phenomena. And therefore he said, woe is me, because perhaps because I sinned, the world is becoming dark around me and will ultimately return to the primordial state of tohu vavohu. And this is the death that was sentenced upon me from heaven, as it is written, dust you shall return. He arose and spent 8 days in fasting and prayer. Now, what did we learn about Hanukkah? You're not allowed to fast. Keep that in mind. Once he saw that the season of Tevet had arrived and saw that the day was progressively lengthening after the solstice, he said, clearly the days became shorter and then longer, and this is the order of the world. He went and observed a festival for 8 days. Do you see how the rabbis are putting Hanukkah back on Adam Kadmon to so stamp their authority on this holiday, which nobody knows why we're doing it, right? To so stamp their authority on this holiday, Adam celebrated it. Upon the next year, he observed both these 8 days on which he fasted on the previous year and these 8 days of his celebration as days of festivity. He, Adam, established these festivals for the sake of heaven, but they, the Gentiles of later generations, established them for the sake of idol worship. What a great ending. Are you telling me that Adam established Christmas and New Year's, Calenda and Saturnalia, or that Adam established an 8-day festival, which we now call Hanukkah? I'm going to leave all that for a moment to mull over, and I want to talk about light. But before I do, questions, comments, discussion.
Bill, you put a comment in the chat.
I can't see the screen share, so can you share it for me?
So should I read it for So Bill wrote here that it's interesting the way the holiday is cobbled together from a variety of sources, Maccabees, Josephus, Midrash.
Yeah, totally cobbled together. And because my rabbinic thesis was on Purim, I'm interested in these two marginal holidays, how they become instances of rabbinic authority, or examples, of the right of the rabbis to establish new holidays with no precedence, with no historical reason, with no biblical reason, okay? In my thesis about Purim, I theorize that people were already celebrating this Feast of Fools, and we had to Judaize it. My theory here is we are already celebrating a winter solstice festival of light, and we have to Judaize it. And we could go back to the book of Maccabees to Judaize it.
So I have a question, Elise. So if you're and I tend to, it makes sense that people were celebrating. Do we have though any, I don't know, archaeological or textual evidence of something that people would do in Yehuda around the midwinter?
No.
Before Romans, before Greeks?
Unfortunately, we do not. One of the reasons we do not is because if this is borrowed from pagan festivities, we know that most records of pagan rituals have been destroyed by the Christian church, early Christian church. So we found very ancient Chanukiot, or menorahs of 8 branches, in archaeological digs in Israel, right? But that doesn't tell us if they were using it for the purposes we think of Hanukkah today, or whether they were using it during the winter as a light festival in one way or another.
You know, Elise, it's interesting to me that what you're saying is that the rabbis, they invented these holidays, but they didn't invent them de novo. They really just added a layer of meaning onto pre-existing holidays and kind of Judaized them. And it's an interesting contrast, I think, between that and newer holidays, like 20th century holidays that have been added to the calendar. Days like these aren't festive days, but days like Yom HaShoah, Yom HaAtzmaut, to a certain extent, has become a Jewish holiday. It seems that when the Knesset did that, they kind of did sort of create something de novo. It's an interesting contrast, I think, between contemporary and ancient holiday invention modes.
I think it's a fantastic point. I think the rabbis of the Talmud had to use rabbinic authority, halachic rabbinic authority, to establish these two festivals, especially to require Hallel be said. Okay. Whereas, and by the way, in modern Israel today, even till today, Rav Kook and people onward argue about whether you say Hallel on all these Yom HaAtzmaut and Yom Yerushalayim and all those Yamim, right? Am I right, Gila? That there's still an argument as to
there is, yeah.
The what are they called? The religious Zionists, the
Dati Leumi.
Thank you, Dati Leumi. I was trying to get it from Hebrew into English and then back to Hebrew again. The Dati Leumi say Hallel, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think the Reform movement says Hallel also, but the conservative movement hasn't made up its mind, and it's like up to the rabbi. And of course, the not the Datiim that are not Leumim don't say Hallel. So there's still today in the 21st century, we have a holiday that nobody agrees on how to keep it.
Several.
Right.
I'll just, Bill added something into the text, so I'll just read it again because you can't see the text, the chat. So previous text says lights became associated with idol worship, a reference to rise of Christianity and lights we see today during Christmas, ?
Probably. I mean, what we see today in Christmas is actually as contemporary as the 20th century. These Christmas decorations and things are they're only a century old, except for the wreath and the tree. The wreath and the tree are definitely pagan symbols. We know that for sure. But all these electric lights and all that stuff, that's read Charles Dickens. It's like that's the beginning of the Christmas dinner and Christmas stories and Christmas decorations and all of that. So 19th century, 20th century maybe. What I want to end with, I've skipped, but you have this text because it's in the chat if you want to print it. I'm skipping all this stuff about the symbol of light, okay? I've mentioned here to think about the fact that Shabbat candles are used to not be sitting in the dark on Shabbat. Havdalah is used to say that you can go back to work. Memorial Yizkor candle is used to say that you are reciting Kaddish, basically. But Hanukkah candles are not to be used, as opposed to other ritual candles, which are to be used. And then, of course, this is just a piece from the Siddur about the, you're not allowed to work by them, read by them, warm yourself by them. And here is the Mishnaic passage on how to light Hanukkah candles, and the big discussion between Beit Hillel and Beit Shammai that we usually leave out half of. So I gave all of it to you because there's all the reasons why Beit Hillel goes up and Beit Shammai goes down, not just the one reason, but there's 4 reasons. And so it's really good for us when we're teaching this to have that text in front of us. But here's some texts I found that I really love that are not as common, that talk about the spirituality of Hanukkah and the lights. So there's a couple of texts that I want to go over. Most of them are just English. I'm sorry I haven't given you the Hebrew. One is from Midrash Talpiot. Midrash Talpiot is a collection of midrashim by a Turkish rabbi named Elijah ben Solomon Abraham HaKohen. And from this, so it's sort of 18th century, but I love this midrash and I use it all the time. And in fact, I said it in my little piece of video for the Hanukkah, Canada-wide Hanukkah celebration, because I love it so much. I ended with it. Hanukkah is preparation for the days of the Messiah, because the acronym is of the acronym of Mashiach, Madlikin Shmonat Yemei Chanukah. And I love that idea that the lighting, because you know the Chabad idea, if everybody lit Shabbat candles once on the same Friday, not everybody, excuse me, every woman, we would bring the Messiah, right? But I like this idea that actually there's something in this light and the darkness that we bring in the middle of the winter that brings Mashiach Tzeit, that brings a messianic uplifting. It's something we really need to hear right now, that we can bring redemption in one way or another during this Hanukkah of 2020 by believing when we light these candles that we're bringing light to the world and that we're bringing better to the world. I'm being very strict this year, by the way, with my congregants to light their Chanukiot in the window this year because passersby need as much light as we need. Second, beautiful, I love this, is a Hasidic commentary from Zar Zahav. We light from the left so that they should be opposite the heart to fulfill the verse, and you shall circumcise the foreskin of your hearts. And that's, of course, from Deuteronomy. And for this reason, the miracle of Hanukkah was for 8 days, like the 8 days of circumcision. Oh, I love that. So it's a brit. Hanukkah is a brit. Hanukkah is bringing us back to the idea that we have a physical sign, at least men, have a physical sign of a covenant with God. And the Chanukiah then becomes a physical sign. Like the sign of the Brit, the Chanukiah is a sign of our Brit. Again, another reason to put it in the window. Hanukkah is revelation. So this is Rambam's comment on Exodus 13 when he's commenting on the pillar of fire and cloud. Through the large and publicized miracles, a person truly acknowledges the hidden miracles, which are the basis of the whole Torah. The lights of Hanukkah can show a person the light of all the rest of the days of the year. So the big light of the Chanukiah helps us remember, especially in this pandemic, the small lights that we have, the small miracles that we experience. To me, these are very comforting midrashim. And here's my political one. Hanukkah is an acceptance of rabbinical authority, and it's a symbol of Jewish evolution. So the Chatam Sofer, who was not a great liberal, right? The Chatam Sofer who says, any new halacha is forbidden. What's he going to say about Hanukkah, right? He says, the essence of the miracle of Hanukkah is to show that the words of the rabbis are as if they are from the Torah.
I'll remind my congregation of that.
You should. What Chatam Sofer does it say? I love that. Now let me just leave you with a few really beautiful pieces you can teach. So the Sfat Emet on finding light in the darkness. Rabbi Elazar of Worms says in his work, the Rokeach, that the 36 candles we light on Hanukkah parallel the 36 hours for which the original light of the 6 days of creation shone before it was hidden away. What 36 hours is he talking about? The 36 candles we light on Hanukkah?
Before the sun and the moon were created, before the fourth day.
No. How many candles do you get in a Hanukkah box?
44.
Yes. So what's the 36 he's talking about? So remove the shamash.
Right.
Okay. If this is so, then it appears that each Hanukkah candle draws from the Or HaGanuz, the hidden light of creation, and gives light in great darkness. This is what I'm teaching my congregation. Every night, even the first night of Hanukkah, one little candle reveals the light of the other candles about to come, right? And gives light in great darkness, as our sages hinted with their description of the Or HaGanuz as a light which shined from one end of the world to the other. There is no hiddenness or obscurity, ha'alem, like to be disguised, before this light. We call the world olam, so you see the nice play of words between olam and ha'alem, right? We call the world olam, which obscures ma'alim and hides this light, the natural. So the world is hiding all the light we really have. Right now, the pandemic is hiding the light that we really have. But the original light of creation shone through all these layers of concealment, and it was hidden away for the righteous. Right? We know that organuz latzadikim. Every servant of God must rejoice during these days when a touch of the hidden light illuminates divine service. The primary intent of the wicked ones, that's the Greeks, was to make us forget God's laws and Torah. And the Chanukkah lights bring us to remembrance. Tzvi Elimelech of Dinov writes, every time a person sees a new light in the Torah, it comes from the hidden light. Therefore, the Torah is called light, everyone according to their labor and exertion in the Torah. So we've got light that's coming out of being hidden from Sfat Emet. We have light that's emanates out of Torah, and we have the light that emanates out of us. Rabbi Dov Ber Pinson, Dov Ber, two words, sorry, separate them. Dov Ber, sorry. Rabbi Dov Ber Pinson, who's a 21st century Hasidic rabbi. Looking at the flames, what do we see? Noticeably, there are three basic elements to the fire: the flame, the wick, and the oil or wax. By the way, he writes in English. There's no Hebrew for this. Says the Zohar, the body is similar to the wick. The flame itself is analogous to the divine presence that rests above the head. And the oil that fuses the two together, allowing the flame to join and remain connected with the wick, is our masim tovim, good and illuminating deeds. In truth, we are like a flame. The totality of who we are is reflected within the flame. The spiritual elements of self, the fire reaching upward, the physical body which gravitates downward, is the wick. And our good deeds allow us for a full integration among all aspects of self, body, and soul. And then the beautiful ending. The flame is who we are. Appropriately, the Hebrew word nefesh, comprised of the three letters nun, pein, shin, is an acronym for ner, pesilah, and shemen. And we remember from the old Reform prayer book, what is that we used to say before the lighting of the candles? Something about the light of God. There was a paragraph my mother used to read from the old Union prayer book.
Yes, yeah, mine too.
You remember what it was, Mark?
I'm trying to remember. I should call my mom.
Light is a symbol of the divine. It began. Light is, and it was all about our own, the symbol of God that we see in the light. Anyway, I just love this, that we are the candles. We are the candles. Man, I love that. All right, good. What do people want to say? Anything people want to add?
First of all, thank you, Shav Koch. This is wonderful.
Oh God, thank you.
Yeah.
I hope I've given you chomer lidrosh.
Mamash kacha. Tons of chomer lidrosh, yes.
Good.
Thank you.
We need good stuff to talk about, aside from the little journal.
Yeah,
So I
good
hope you'll have a wonderful Hanukkah and use the material. And this was fun. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
This is fun. Thank you for joining. Thank you, Ken. Tell your friends. No, really. I think, it would be nice if, and also if other people want to teach, I think that would be very good. The more people we get to teach, the better. Ken.
Thank you. And that's in keeping with the spirit of the season, as Bill noticed. I will take you over to see. In my office here proudly hangs, let me see, Ed's, from Honest Ed's, Xmas bath towels, $4.99. Honest Ed's was closing and people were going to buy these hand-painted advertisement signs. They were, interestingly enough, $18 each. I thought that was really interesting. And I grabbed this one. I thought, I'm putting that in my office. All right, everybody, have a good
Louise.
Thank you very much. Toda.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Chag Sameach.
Chag Sameach.
Is it a chag? Yes.
Or is it a Yom Tov?
Happy Yom Tov. Good Yom Tov, as they say.
Hanukkah Sameach, and that's the way to say it. Hanukkah Sameach.
Hanukkah Sameach.
Bye.